you started at 18 or 21 saving $50 a month, and when you could, you raised it to 100 and then 150, you're going to be much better off than someone who's starting at 50 years old with nothing, because you're going to have to put a lot of money away, in order to potentially retire in the lifestyle that you want to maintain. And there might not be that much left over at the end of the day. So
how is it already the last week of March? I'm so confused how time is flying by so quickly. It's almost April, which means that we're in the midst of tax season. This episode couldn't be more appropriately timed. I learned so much from Bree during this conversation, and I know that you will too. As far as a life update on my end, I have my appointment with my CPA this week, and I'm feeling so much more empowered for that conversation since talking with the financial yogi, Bree Soscia, here on the podcast. So I hope that you're feeling ready. If you're not, don't worry, because Bree is going to drop so much good, actionable advice that you can kind of implement right now and kind of go from that feeling really frustrated with your finances to feeling like you're flowing with your finances, and give you some easy systems that you can quickly implement to make wealth building just like a set it and forget it type thing, that it won't be stressful anymore. Before we dive into that, I just wanted to share with you the true story submission of the week. This is by Dara Newman, who's actually one of the review raffle winners. She says, on December 22nd, 2021, I was teaching at LA Fitness on a Wednesday night, just a few days before Christmas. So I wasn't surprised at all to have just one student. I'm the kind of teacher that loves one student. So I was thrilled to practice right alongside her and guide through whatever she wanted. I had seen her a handful of times in my class before. Super sweet and a beautiful practice. I approached her on the mat with a smile and said, "Looks like it's just you and me tonight. How would you like your private class?" She looked at me with slight tears in her eyes and choked out these words. "Well, I just got a call on Monday. Our adoption has gone through. I'm picking up 2 kids tomorrow, 2 and 10 years old. It's an emergency situation, but they're ours forever. I'm going to Target right after class to buy pretty much everything, and my husband and I will be up all night tonight. So maybe a real ass kicker of a class would be nice." Whoa, my heart exploded out of my chest at that very moment. Okay, ask and you shall receive. I gave her a class that allowed her to see and feel her strength and resilience, a class that empowered her to move, breathe, and sweat on the last day before she becomes a mom. At the end, we cried together, sweaty and spent on our mats. I told her my daughter had just turned 16 and I still struggle every single day. I told her nobody has parenting figured out and we're all just learning. I assured her that she's going to be incredible and amazing, despite all of the inevitable mistakes and mishaps that are sure to come. She cried, I cried, we hugged. She thanked me, and off to Target she went. It was a moment that I will never forget, a moment that will forever remind me of what a gift it is to teach yoga. Amen to that, sister. Thank you, Dara, so much for sharing your true story. What an amazing just memory and experience that inspires all of us, that we never know what people are going through and we never know how meaningful our classes are for them. And that moment that you shared with her probably will remain with her too. It's like you said in the story, the very last thing that she's doing kind of before she's becoming a mom is to really fill her own cup, and you helped her do that. Super cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you for submitting. If you yourself are listening and it's reminding you of an experience that you've had in your yoga teaching career and journey, I would love for you to submit it on our true story form. All you have to do is head to my Instagram and type true story as either a comment or a direct message, and I'll instantly reply following up with how to fill out the form. Or you could just head to the show notes within this episode and there's a link for you to do so. Let's dive into this episode. Bree and I talk about so many good things, like the advantages and the challenges of being self-employed as a yoga teacher. Outsource this, not that, or the first thing that you should delegate. Reframing your relationship to the B word, budgeting, blah. financial self care rituals, why budgets always fail you, and what to do instead. The only way you're going to reach financial freedom, the biggest misconception around working with a financial advisor, the definition of financial freedom, why to never take money advice from your friends, translating the lingo and learning the 3 levels of savings, the main differences between retirement and non retirement accounts, common mistakes that yoga teachers make when it comes to financial planning, and the connection between practicing yoga and managing your money. Let's dive in. Hey yogis, Mackenzie Fly here, mom, yogapreneur, teacher trainer, retreat leader, and your guide to master your yoga teaching. This podcast is your weekly dose of actionable wisdom and candid chats with industry experts. Learn to connect deeper, weave yogic magic, and lead by example. Full disclosure, I'm still mastering it too, but together we'll skyrocket your impact and income. Hit subscribe and let's grow, one episode at a time. All right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to MYYT. Today, I am so excited to have a conversation with Breanne. Breanne specializes in working with individuals, families, and business owners in the areas of retirement planning, investment management, and college savings. Breanne is a certified financial planner and financial advisor. She currently holds her Series 6, 7, and 63 licenses through LPL Financial and Series 66 license through WCG Wealth Advisors and LPL Financial, as well as her life and health insurance licenses. Breanne was born and raised in Southern California before moving to the Las Vegas Valley in 2003. She received her bachelor's degree in sociology and psychology from the University of Colorado at Boulder, and her master's in elementary education at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. She volunteers with the Las Vegas Breast Cancer Warriors and Las Vegan Food Bank. Her passion is practicing Ashtanga yoga and traveling with her husband, Ben, and her 2 daughters, Kaya and Lily. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Bree. We are so lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well,
Really.
as with when this episode goes live, we are kind of in the midst of tax season. And although you aren't necessarily a CPA, I thought that you could bring a lot to all of our listeners, most of which are yoga teachers, as far as reframing our money mindset, first and foremost, and then hopefully communicating in a language that is clear, concise, and easily applicable to help yoga teachers kind of see the bridge and connection between yoga and investing. And I truly feel like you have so much to offer in that regard. I'm so excited just to kind of pick your brain and figure out some of these things that can seem really scary and complex. So, with what you do, as far as understanding yoga teacher finances, can we start or will you begin by addressing some of the unique challenges that yoga teachers face because of being self employed or working part time? Can you kind of discuss the specific financial challenges that yoga teachers face compared to traditional professions?
Sure, of course, yes. Um, and I'd actually start with wanting to lead with the fact that there's a lot of opportunities for yoga teachers as independent contractors or being self-employed to invest and retirement options. So it's not necessarily a challenge. There's actually a lot of opportunity there. So if you're self-employed, you have a lot of different options when it comes to retirement accounts, first and foremost. So usually if you're a W-2 employee, you have a 401k available to you. If you work for a large company and you're lucky enough to have your workplace sponsor your retirement plan, whether it's a 401k or 403b, which if you do have that available to you, you should absolutely take advantage of it. There's tax advantages. A lot of times companies will offer what's called a match, where, if you're contributing to the 401k, they will match up to a certain percentage of your contribution. You definitely always want to take advantage of that free money. So if you are a W-2 employee, that's the first place you want to start, is with your 401k. If you don't have that type of retirement account option to you, and I won't go into the details today, but there's IRAs and Roth IRAs and SEP IRAs and solo 401ks for business owners who don't have employees, which is often the case with yoga teachers, right? You're an independent contractor and you don't have employees yourself. So you may be able to open what's called a solo 401k, and it just provides an opportunity to put a lot away in retirement if you can afford to do so. And not only, are you building your wealth, when you contribute to a retirement account, oftentimes it's going to give you tax advantages. So, as a business owner or an independent contractor being self-employed, there is that challenge of, dealing with your taxes on your own, right? I am a big fan of, I like to call it your money team. So working with a financial advisor or financial planner, someone like me, and working with a tax advisor, whether that's a CPA, maybe, it's not a CPA, but someone who helps you to file your taxes. Because, you want to work with professionals who are going to give you strategies. So a lot of times when you contribute to a retirement account, it'll lower your taxable income, which then in turn can lower your taxes. So, there's lots of good tax advantages for contributing to retirement accounts as well. That's the main advantage that I usually talk about when it comes to being self-employed. Now, I agree with you. As a yoga teacher, there are lots of challenges and struggles, aside from taxes and investments, that you're facing. But I always like to start with, there's actually really good opportunity there.
Mhm. And I really appreciate it because I think it's all too easy to slip into that negative perspective of, oh gosh, since I am, self-employed and doing it all on my own, that it feels a lot harder. And so it's a encouraging word to hear that even just changing the verbiage that we use around it as not necessarily a problem, or even in the problem, it presents this beautiful opportunity and advantage. So just thank you for helping us remember that if we take the time to learn, especially from experts like you, that how to use those advantages to our advantage. So that's beautiful.
Another thing that comes to top of mind when it comes to taxes, so again, I'm not a CPA, I don't do tax returns, but I work closely with my clients' CPAs. And so when you have an advisor and a CPA, working together for your benefit, to help you reduce your taxes, or whatever it may be when it comes to your tax planning, that's really, really helpful. And one thing that I see far too often is, people who are self-employed trying to maintain their receipts and maintain their bookkeeping. And, they'll say, well, I can't afford a CPA yet. It is one of the first things that you should outsource as a self-employed person, is your bookkeeping and your, getting your taxes filed, because that's not your area of expertise. So you want to spend your time doing what you're the expert in, not spending hours and hours and hours on your taxes. There's plenty of safe ways to do it these days. Like, for example, my bookkeeper, she has access to my bank accounts, but it's view only. And I can't stress enough how worth the money it really, really is, because all of those hours that you dedicated towards your taxes, you could have been creating a course or teaching classes or something that is bringing you in the income. So, spend the majority of your time when it comes to your career doing what you're the expert in, and outsource the rest. So,
Excellent advice. I completely agree that it is so painful to be outside of your zone of genius. And as often as we can kind of stay in our lanes, so to speak, it just feels so much better. And it feels good to also know that you are contributing to somebody else's well-being in the sense that you are providing that financial stability for them, whether it's, this CPA investment or something else. It feels really good to know that you're paying someone to do their zone of genius, even though it's not yours.
I have one more that comes to top of mind, just because I think this is kind of a big one for yoga teachers. It is, okay, well, I have trouble managing my cash flow because maybe I don't teach the same amount of classes per week, or I don't teach the same amount of classes per month. And so it's hard to do like a monthly budget or cash flow. And I don't have enough money to, invest or save for retirement, because all of my money is going towards my business or whatever it may be. So, there's plenty of ways to say this dirty word, which is budget. It doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be horrible. And by any means, it does not have to be perfect. But you do want to get a general sense of your cash flow. You have to know the income coming in versus the expenses going out, or you're never going to feel good about your financial situation. So even if you estimate or you work with an advisor to help you through it, sit down with your partner and, make it a date, understand your cash flow. And then we have a saying that is pay yourself first. So there is always money, to be found. And we're of the mindset now, we don't want you to skip the latte. We don't want you to skip the avocado toast. Like, we want you to live your life. However, part of self-care, and well-being is taking care of yourself financially. So when you get paid, if you put a portion away for taxes and a portion away to invest for your future, that's paying yourself first. And then you can use the rest for your bills and the fun that you're going to have. So that's another really good strategy that I like to have my clients employ.
Yeah, and it's so important. I think it's really just a shift in how you think of it as just another yoga practice per se, or maybe even just another ritual that you do that maybe initially, just like we yoga teachers as practitioners ourselves, like maybe you go to your mat and you're not feeling it every day. You still roll out your mat knowing that a little bit of moving and breathing is going to make you feel better. I always say that it's like the opposite of a hangover. That a yoga practice, it might not feel so good in the moment, but you feel exponentially better because of it afterwards. Whereas something like these more quick hit, dopamine hit things that feel really good in the moment and then you feel really terrible about later. It's kind of like managing your finances and money is the same way, is that you might not always show up with that enthusiasm and vigor and excitement to like check in with your money. But we feel so much more in control, have so much more a sense of financial freedom that I know that you talk all about on your Instagram, that sense of ease, that sense of peace that you're looking for comes from kind of these practices that may at first be difficult to implement because we don't know the strategies. But if we surround ourselves with people like you who can teach us, like, okay, walk us through ways that would really help. And then you're going to feel so much more peaceful about your situation, knowing that you're doing a little bit every day and then it compounds over time.
I tell my clients that all the time. I'm like, it's like going to the gym. Um, it's like, you don't want to go, you don't want to go. And the hardest part is just getting there and just starting. Yeah, because if you're always having this angst and this stress over your finances because you don't want to face it and you don't want to look at it, you're going to continue to feel badly every day until you finally just take the plunge and look at it. And, whether you're in debt or, you're having trouble paying off your student loans, whatever it may be, you're exactly right. Like, as soon as you actually just like face the music and take control, you just feel 1,000 times better. And money is one of those things that, our society kind of like teaches us not to talk about. And B, there's a lot of, shame and guilt and, feelings tied to money. So it's kind of like yoga, like how you behave on the mat, will transfer into your life off the mat. Same with money. It's going to be how you deal with money is usually a reflection of the way that you go about the rest of your life.
Remember that time you were so burnt out you could barely remember your own name? Yeah, me too. We all get there. Juggling work, life, responsibilities, it's easy to run yourself ragged. But what if you could escape? Imagine. Wake up to sunrise yoga on the beach, feeling the sand between your toes. Nourish your body with delicious, healthy meals made with love and local ingredients. Experience ancient Mayan rituals and soul stirring ceremonies. Explore cenotes, ruins, and feel the magic of Mayan culture come alive. This isn't just a vacation, it's a recharge, taking you from burnout to balance. Join Rachaka Retreats at the Amansala Yoga Resort in Tulum, Mexico. It's not just for yogis or meditation masters, though they're welcome too. This is for anyone who craves balance, peace, and a little adventure. Spaces are limited, so don't wait. And just for listening, use code MYYT for a special 10% off discount. Visit rachakaretreats.com/Tulum or click the link in the show notes to snag your spot today. Can't believe you dropped the B word, and I'm probably going to have to bleep it out since you said budgeting.
Yeah.
But I always felt like budgeting failed me personally up until recently because, and this is, I guess this is an interesting point. I'd be curious to hear your opinion. Using apps or platforms almost like Mint or something like it that you would sync to your bank account and it would kind of do it for you automatically. I actually felt like it was sold to me as, it's great. It's going to do it all for you. It's automatic. But I still wasn't that intimate with my money as a byproduct. And so I always felt like I didn't actually track every single expense, whether it was coming in or going out. And so therefore, I always felt like I was just kind of guessing about budgeting. Like this amount kind of sounds good. And I feel like I should stay within this amount. But it was based off of it was just a guess. And so then when I tried to implement this number that wasn't actually produced through researching, analyzing my spending habits, then I would inevitably feel like I was a failure with money because I didn't actually make a informed decision. So does that make sense? Like the second that I actually started manually entering things in and really seeing kind of my spending habits, and then also asking myself like how I felt about every transaction, kind of to your point of like, we're not talking about taking away all the lattes or giving up the avocado toast, but it's just more often knowing that you decided to spend on that or knowing that that money came in that can really make a big difference, especially when it comes to budgeting. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really personal. Again, it's kind of like your yoga practice. You have to budget in a way, and I don't even call it budgeting really. I call it like figuring out your cash flow or looking at your expenses and your income. You have to do it in a way that works for you. Some people love Dave Ramsey, some people love Mint. Hey, if a pencil and paper and a notebook works for you, that's fine too. I offer, like, I have an expense worksheet that I give my clients. I give them an Excel version, or I give them a version that they can just print out. And it also doesn't have to be down to the very, very penny. For example, myself, like I know how much I want to put in my retirement account annually and my girls' college savings account annually. And I know how much I want to transfer to my savings account at the bank every month. And, if I can do all of those things and then I have this amount of money left over, I don't need to budget every penny. I can spend it on whatever I like. Leggings, travel, like, and I don't have to judge that as bad or good. But you're right. A lot of times people are just guessing. That is actually one of the services that I offer. So aside from, managing people's investments, something that I do as a CFP or a certified financial planner is that I actually offer comprehensive financial plans. And you don't have to do a full blown, financial plan where you're looking at everything like tax planning, estate planning, investments, retirement, education. Maybe you just want to do a mini plan on cash flow. And maybe you need some assistance, figuring things out. Because it's not always going to be perfect, but that is a service that I offer my clients, is figuring out your cash flow. You basically want to know if you're in a deficit or a surplus. And if you're in a deficit, you have a few options, and usually, believe it or not, the best option is not to spend less. Unfortunately, it's to earn more. So whether that's get another job or, increase your hours or do a side hustle, because we can only like skimp or scrimp down so much when it comes to savings, right?
Especially nowadays, which is cost of living. It's like, I can't necessarily, like, change my mortgage, you know what I mean? Like, you can't really change much of your bills.
And then if you're in the fortunate spot of being in a surplus, then, it goes back to, okay, I'm going to pay myself first. And that's, investment accounts, retirement accounts. And then I'm going to pay my bills, and then I'm going to spend what's left over as I please, and it can look so many different ways. I know people who have separate accounts for travel. You can separate your savings any way you like, just like you can do a budget any way you'd like. It has to work for you or you're not going to do it.
Wow, so many good things already. So I feel like when I'm listening to you and absorbing it all in, is that for most, like if we're talking to yoga teachers who, let's just say, have a limited investment knowledge, or they feel like they're not necessarily the most financially savvy or literate, would you say to them that their first step is to just kind of look at your transactions more in and out and just become more familiar with your habits? And from that, start to build a budget? Or would you say initially, like, hire some sort of advisor to help you see if you're in that deficit or surplus place? What's like the first thing that people can do? And what's other just like basic options to get started to build the right structure to lather, rinse, and repeat and just start getting on a better path towards freedom?
Yeah, good question. I definitely think it's doable on your own. When would I hire a professional? If you're absolutely not going to do it on your own because you have like a mental block towards it, or you're struggling and you don't know how to do it. But it's absolutely doable on your own. There's so many resources online and books, and again, cash flow doesn't have to be that difficult. But yes, I definitely think that is the place to start. Of course, you're going I really do think for people who are self employed, I do think it's important to work with a tax advisor, at least once, just to see, how simple it really is to do it on your own. And if you really do need a professional. When it comes to hiring an advisor, some people manage their own investments on themselves, and they're a do it yourself kind of person, and they never hire an advisor. Some people don't want to spend their time learning about investments and retirement account options. So if you're that type of person, then, maybe you want to hire an advisor to manage your investments and give you advice. Maybe you want to hire an advisor who's just going to give you advice and you want to manage your investments on your own. So there's lots of different ways to do it. Yes, starting with cash flow. And then if and when you're in a surplus, you need to start investing. The only way you're ever going to reach financial freedom or become wealthy is to invest. You cannot save your way to retirement. A lot of, not only yoga teachers, but some yoga teachers spending all this time focusing on their career because the demands are so high, driving from studio to studio, and you're exhausted, and now you have to deal with your taxes and your students, and you're drained. And at the end of the day, investing and putting yourself first is the last thing that you want to think about. But that is the only way you're ever going to reach financial freedom, whether it's investing in the stock market, which is my area of expertise, investing in real estate, whether that's residential or commercial properties, or starting a profitable business. um, those are the only ways to reach financial freedom or to get wealthy. And hopefully a combination of all of those things. Like, I believe in investing in all of those things, your business, the stock market, and real estate.
Gosh, and I feel like so many yoga teachers probably feel like they've started too late. I've recently been coming across this concept of catch up contributions of if you are like, okay, now I'm starting to contribute, but maybe I'm starting like in my mid 30s and I feel like if I want to hit X amount of dollars that I would like to have at retirement, they're trying to, like catch up. So can you talk a little bit on that, or should they start with the end in mind, almost like reverse engineering their retirement? Or should you just do what you can afford at this moment? What advice would you give as far as that?
Well, the answer to that is both. You do what you can, absolutely. But having a plan in place is ideally the best thing that you can do for yourself. People have this thought in their head that they can only work with an advisor, or they can only start investing if they're wealthy. That's not true. You can open up a Roth IRA for $50 a month. So you should absolutely just start. One of the things that I always say is, many things when it comes to finance are really important. It's important to look at fees. It's important to look at your investments. But the absolute most important thing is time. So the earlier you can start, the better. And we live in a culture of instant gratification. And so putting something away for many, 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 many years later is not appealing to us. On the contrary, it's never too late. So I have had plenty of people come to me at 50, 55, even older, who are like, I have nothing, or I have very little. Now, what am I going to do? And I'll say that it's not impossible, but it's much, much, much harder to meet your goals the longer you put it off. So you started at 18 or 21 saving $50 a month, and when you could, you raised it to 100 and then 150. You're going to be much better off than someone who's starting at 50 years old with nothing, because you're going to have to put a lot of money away, in order to potentially retire in the lifestyle that you want to maintain. And there might not be that much left over at the end of the day. So that is one of the things that the financial plan will do, is, okay, I'm this old. How much do I need to save a month at a certain rate of return? I want to retire when I'm 60, 62, 65. I'm going to get Social Security at this age. So, what do I need to start saving now based on my age, my time horizon, and how many assets or investments I already have, to get me to a certain number? And the financial plan will give you those concrete numbers. If you save this for this amount of years and retire at this age, this is what your nest egg will look like, and this is what you can safely spend from it. And then, like I said before, if it's not enough, you have a few options: earn more, spend less, or, unfortunately, and I've had to say this in many financial plan delivery meetings, you're going to have to work longer. And financial freedom is the definition to me of financial freedom is being able to walk away from earning money through our jobs or our business if we want to. You don't have to. You can be working and still have financial freedom. But, financial freedom is really about being able to walk away when you want. So, in order to do that, the younger you can start, the better. So, I didn't talk about really how I got into the business, but my father was a financial advisor, and I ended up taking over his business about 12 years ago when he got sick with cancer. And I was lucky enough to have a financial advisor for a father who was like, oh, you graduated from college, you're 21. Okay, here you go, 401k, and so, I started right out of college. I was an elementary school teacher, and my dad helped me get enrolled. But, I hear all the time, like, I think I have a 401k. I don't know if they match. I'm not contributing. I'll hear people say, like, well, my employer doesn't match. So why would I put my money in? Well, if your boss isn't matching and you're not putting anything in, like, what are you going to do? I'm not of the belief that Social Security is going to be gone. I think there's always going to be something there, but Social Security was never designed to be our sole source of income. In retirement, the average Social Security payment is about $1,500 a month. I can't live on $1,500 a month. I don't know many people who can. So if we're not saving, or I don't even like to use the word saving, if we're not investing for ourselves, who is?
And it feels so frustrating. I think that's where we get this complex combination of emotions between frustration of the systems and not being equipped with the right tools, not having the right teachers. You're so lucky to have your dad to kind of, number one, have the stuff in place for you, but then help educate you around the topic, because I feel like that's where the shame and embarrassment comes from, is like, I feel like I should know how to do this, but I don't. And then it already feels too late. So I'm stressed about it. And then that stress is perpetuating the problem of not doing anything about it. And so it's just this vicious cycle that so many yoga teachers are stuck in, of just like, I think it's hopelessness, really, is what it feels like. And that there's this loom and doom of the future instead of that ease of financial freedom that you're talking about. And I love that you made the definition just so simple for all of us. And I noticed how you changed the word of even considering your savings as like it's investing in yourself and your future. So, can you then explain, and again, make it like really simple to our listeners, of what are some of the, let's see, like pros and cons of the different types of retirement savings accounts for self-employed people like yoga teachers? And if they were to just get started today, like what is like a simple thing?
I want to make the distinction. I should have made the distinction between savings and investing. So, I always like to talk about kind of like the levels of money. So we have our basic like checking account. That's our revolving account. We have our money coming into that account and we have our bills and our spending going out. Then we have our savings. You should have savings at the bank. We say anywhere from 3 months to 12 months on the very conservative side of expenses. And if you have any major purchases coming up within like 12 to 24 months, a down payment on a home, a really extravagant vacation, a remodel, you don't want to invest any of that money because, you know, as soon as you invest, you have to take risk, right? So but if you're trying to save yourself to wealth and you just keep putting money in cash because you're afraid of the stock market, because you don't understand it, or whatever it may be, by keeping all of your money in the bank, you're actually taking on a ton of risk as well because, with inflation and rising prices, like you're never going to be able to keep up. And people were so excited about high yield savings accounts and, paying 4% and 5%. Well, I'm here to tell you, when interest rates go down, that's not going to last. Okay. Those high yield savings that everybody's so excited about, they're not going to last. And that is not a good rate of return to be earning if you are a young person, and you have until you're 65. You want to be averaging somewhere around like 8 to 11%. Now, your account may be down one year, 10 or 20%, and you may be up 20% the next year. But the stock market, goes up and down, but it climbs a mountain over time. So you have to take that risk in order to get reward. So the less amount of risk you take, the less amount of reward you're going to get. The riskier you want to be, the more potential for a reward you're going to have, but you also you will have more potential for loss. So it's managing that risk. I can't speak to, which retirement account should you just get started with, because that's the really unique part of financial planning. And this is why I always say, don't listen to your colleagues, don't listen to your neighbor, don't even listen to your parents, because Your parents' time horizon and their views on money may be completely different than yours. I have young people coming to me saying, I want an annuity or I want gold. And I'm like, where did you hear this? Oh, my mom, my grandma, or my colleague told me to put all my money here. Like, you know, either spend the time researching it yourself or hire a professional, because the person next door does not fully understand your financial situation. So I can't just say, well, the Roth IRA is the best, because the pro of a Roth IRA is one day all that money is going to come out tax free. However, if there's somebody who owes, 20,000 in taxes, you may want to do a regular IRA or a regular 401k because that's going to help you lower your taxes now. So I guess what I want to say is that if anybody ever tells you this is the best account or this is the best investment, run away. Because there's no such thing. Every financial account, every investment is going to have pros and is going to have cons. And so you have to manage the risk and the reward. And you also have to base it on your own unique financial situation. So that's one of the good things about working with a financial advisor, is that you really get to know the advisor really gets to know your personal circumstances. So
Yeah, that makes a huge difference, and it's such a great point, and I mean, obviously, it's like when you say it, you're like, "Well, yeah." I mean, I guess it's like how a really good yoga teacher, is is speaking to the person and the body in front of them in a unique way based on what they're bringing to the practice. And of course, it makes so much sense. It's just, I think it goes back to that sort of like shame thing, or for whatever reason, the conditioning, thinking that you have to be wealthy, like you mentioned, to get some guidance like that. So I feel like that maybe is the first thing, is really, like you're saying, just considering hiring a professional to help you see your picture. And then once you know where your like starting point is, then they can map out the actionable steps for you to take based off of what your situation is. Forget the overwhelm of tech tools and expensive software. I'm here to introduce you to FG Funnels, the game changer that transformed my yoga teaching career. What is FG Funnels? A female owned and operated all in one platform that lets you build beautiful landing pages and sales funnels to attract new students and sell your offerings like workshops, retreats, or online courses. Create captivating email sequences to nurture leads and convert them into loyal yogis. Track your results with detailed analytics to see what's working and what's not. I truly believe in FG Funnels, and my experience with FG Funnels has been nothing short of amazing. My student base has doubled since I started using it. My income has grown significantly thanks to efficient sales funnels. I save countless hours thanks to automation and easy management. And best of all, I feel more connected to my students through personalized communication. Ready to experience FG Funnels magic for yourself? Click the link in the show notes to get started and save money by becoming a founding member. Don't wait. Invest in your yoga business and watch it blossom with FG Funnels. Happy marketing.
I always tell people when they walk in my door, I'm like, this is a judgment-free zone. And I've probably seen much worse. So you're probably not going to shock me. I mean, I've been shocked a few times, but most often I've seen it. I've seen the debt, and people will literally walk in and be like, do I have to pretend I'm smart? Like I don't know anything. And I'm so bad at money and I'm so bad at finance. And what I find is people just don't give themselves enough credit. And also, we aren't taught this stuff in school. And many of us are going to go out and read books about finance, unless we're a specific type of person, where that really catches our interest. But most people, no. I like to say that, usually the general public does not know all these little, well, a Roth IRA does this and a SEP IRA does this, and this is how much you can contribute, and this is the deadline. And this is what an index fund is and a stock and a mutual fund. And I mean, your head will literally spin off. So, and at the end of the day, it's not terrible. It's actually a really fun journey, and it can be it's really fun to build wealth and to know, it's like yoga. Like it might take years and years and years, and there's usually not a get rich quick scheme, unless you're really lucky. Um, but the discipline pays off.
I think when I was messaging you about CPAs, this concept like from the yoga tradition and philosophy is that it's tapas. Like it takes a lot of tapas, dedication, discipline, devotion, determination to keep coming back to
Yeah,
some of these more like
yeah,
arduous tasks that we really don't
mm,
love.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just so important. I think already this conversation of just talking more about it and more importantly, being in proximity to a person who enjoys it. Like just chatting with you and to hear you say this sentence, like it doesn't have to be painful is I think what a lot of us are like
Right.
missing is being around somebody who's already in the flow and can teach us these methods to feel and find that sense of flow that you're just repeating, just like you repeating like movements, like you're the repeating the practice of teaching. You are more than equipped to do some of these practices. You just need to know what they are and then actually execute them and continue to be in the
Yeah.
field of people who are having fun, I think is so important. So I'm so glad you're on the podcast because I know a lot of yoga teachers are struggling with this. So then as far as investing, you said yourself that you would say that the stock market is really your area of expertise for investing. Can you kind of give beginnings of understanding investing for yoga teachers who are like, okay, my financial picture is I'm no longer necessarily having to pay off debt. Let's assume that that's not really where they're focusing. Let's say they've built their bank savings account to have that 6 month to 12-year kind of cushion. And now they have a surplus of money to invest and play in the stock market. What might you suggest in that position?
Okay, that's a good question. So, you basically have two major options. You have retirement accounts. And again, that's like your SEP IRA, your Roth IRA, your 401k, your solo 401k. And what type of retirement account you open will depend on your personal situation and also how much you can afford to invest each year. So you'll have your retirement account. The other type of major account is your non-retirement account. So you'll hear it called like a brokerage account or an investment account, or maybe if you have a living trust, it's your trust account. So, but people get confused between the account title, like Roth IRA or Bree Soscia investment account, and what the investment is. So people will say, well, like, does an IRA perform well? The IRA is the account title, and the account title tells the IRS how to tax it. Okay. The investments are what go inside the account. So you can invest in your IRA or your investment account. You can invest in stocks, bonds, funds. Funds are basket of stocks and bonds, and that's usually where most people start because they're low cost. They are more diversified. So instead of putting, your entire IRA contribution in one company's stock, you may put it in the S&P 500, which are, the 500 largest companies, in the country, and that's going to be more diversified. So if one of those companies, doesn't do well, you have 499 other companies that can help you manage your risk. So that's what most people start with when they're investing in the stock market. You've probably heard things like the S&P 500 or index funds. Um, and there's lots of different ways to do it. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, there's plenty of platforms online, to do it yourself, or you hire an advisor like me, and the advisor opens the account for you, invests for you. And then there's different ways to invest. So If somebody has their savings already taken care of, but they don't have like a lot of money to play with, maybe they just start contributing monthly, right? And then, when they get paid, they have it come out of their paycheck, just like a 401k would come out of their paycheck. Well, with an IRA, it has to go into your bank and then, go into your IRA like the next day or whatever it is, so that you're paying yourself first. So you can either do, monthly contributions, you can contribute whenever you have the extra money, like if you get a bonus or a raise, or you can also do lump sums, from your savings, or if you get a gift or an inheritance.
Just a pause while I get a baby. He seems to be in good spirits. Bree, this is Finn.
Finn,
Yeah, baby Finn is joining the podcast, everybody.
so the main difference between the retirement accounts and the non-retirement accounts, and I recommend doing both if you can. Usually, if you don't have any investments, I say start with retirement, because one day you're going to retire, and we want it to be by choice and not because you're forced to retire. The two main differences between the retirement accounts and the non-retirement accounts are the retirement accounts have limits. So it depends on how old you are. So for example, this year, if you're under 50, you can only put 7,000. If you're over 50, it's 8,000 in an IRA. So there's contribution limits to retirement accounts. With non-retirement accounts, there's no limits. And then the other major difference is how they're taxed. So an investment account is a taxable account. So when you earn money, you're going to pay the taxes on it. But with your retirement account, those taxes are deferred. And then with the retirement account, you really need to leave that money there until you retire. Otherwise, you're going to be penalized. So the magic number in our country is 59 and a half. So that's when you can take money out of an IRA without being penalized. And from a 401k, it can be as early as 55, but there's stipulations there. So when you put money into a retirement account, you should definitely have the mindset of this is staying there for that purpose for many, many years, because you don't want to have to take money out of your retirement accounts and pay the penalty. That's why I always say, go back to those levels of saving. You have your checking account, then you have your savings account. Once that is kind of taken care of, now you can start investing.
Great pieces of advice. And I feel like I'm just now kind of in my yoga teaching career getting to that point where this is very applicable. And something that's helped is like, just like you said, make it almost a bill and set it and forget it as this automatic transfer, that the second you get paid, you're creating some sort of automatic transfer that you don't even have to manually do every month. That is transferring from your bank account into your investment portfolios for you, because we have all these bills going on all the time. So if it's just set for you, you're probably going to be more successful with it.
Yeah, there's tons of research studies out there that prove that point.
Well, for other just common mistakes that yoga teachers make when it comes to like their financial decisions, I feel like you touched on a couple of them, which was just not doing some of these things. Are there others that you've kind of come across that you would like to address or you feel like would apply to some people listening?
I don't want to say like, okay, if you've done these things, like that's bad. It's not necessarily like, oh, you made this huge mistake. Things that you can do better or improve upon. Not keeping all of your money in cash, because you're not going to build wealth that way. Not outsourcing to a CPA and trying to just do everything themselves and drowning in it, trying to work on top of that. So outsourcing, not paying yourself first, or just not getting started. That's a huge one. And I caution people who are going to invest themselves. It's a perfectly fine thing to do, but there's so many rules and deadlines and things that people don't understand. I would say at least consider hiring a financial advisor, if for nothing else. For an hour or two a year, you can find a financial advisor who does hourly consulting, and just have them check over your investments, have them check over, the types of accounts that you've opened. So I'd say those are the main things: just not getting started, not outsourcing, and, holding too much cash it's just another example of not getting started out of fear or whatever it may be.
Thank you. Just for those, making it simple and, again, applicable to everybody, like these sort of quick action steps that we can take to start moving in the right direction.
Don't listen to your friends. That is a mistake.
Yes, when it comes to like your money picture, I'm sure your friends have some valuable advice to offer you in other realms of life, but maybe not when it comes to money.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
So
awesome. Okay, well, so for as far as your services, how can the listeners, if they're listening to you and they're like, Bree sounds like my person, I need her to help me, how can the community get plugged in? Or what other resources do you have to offer them to help them like cut through all of this noise?
Sure. I thank you. I would say that the best two places to find me would be Instagram, and it's just Financial Yogi, and I have a link tree. My website is there. It's financial-yogi.com. Um, so for resources, I have blogs on my website about various topics. If somebody wants to book a consultation with me, there's a link on Instagram and my website to book a free consultation. So you can just sign up for a 15-minute phone call. I don't charge for that. Just to see if we're a good fit or if there's anything I can help you with. And if not, if I can just point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Amazing. And just for fun, I think you did such a beautiful job of relating your financial practices and rituals to yoga. But if you were to say, like, wealth building is a yoga pose, which pose would building wealth be for you? Or what other correlations do you see between like having a financial ritual practice and yoga?
Okay, well, I'll give the latest one. So, you mentioned that I practice Ashtanga. That's the only type of yoga I practice. So people are like, "You're a yogi." I'm like, "No, I'm an Ashtangi." Like I only practice Ashtanga, and in Ashtanga we repeat the same poses over and over and over until we do them with ease. So one, one pose recently that's been giving me lots and lots of trouble for months and months and months is Bakasana B, which is where you're jumping into crow pose. And and this relates perfectly to money. I have so much fear about jumping into crow. I'm afraid I'm going to land on my chin. I'm afraid I'm going to land on my face and really hurt myself. And I would practice it 10, 12 times a day. I would put a pillow down and I just had this mental block until finally one day I realized, you know what? If I fall, I can just put my head down on the floor. Like it's going to be okay. I could just put my forehead down. And once I had that realization, I was like, oh, I actually told my teacher today that it's coming a lot easier now. And in my brain, I said, I finally understand the assignment. So, with yoga, like, or with finance, like our fears, they just hold us back. Maybe because we don't understand it or we're afraid something bad is going to happen to us. But if you keep at it day after day, and there's where that like discipline comes in, eventually the more you practice something, even though it feels like it may be never, you're going to have some sort of breakthrough where it, eventually becomes easier. Maybe Bakasana B is never going to be my favorite pose, but it's gotten easier. So that is your most difficult one, but I don't want people to think that, taking control of your finances is difficult. It's just sometimes, well, always there's lessons to be learned, right?
What an epic answer, Bree. That was beautiful and a perfect way to close on an inspiring note that, again, it's just our financial care is just another practice. It's just another ritual. And if we do it every day and if we have the right teachers, that it's going to continue to grow and evolve with us. So, thank you so much for giving us that hope. I think you've answered tons of questions for the yoga teachers out there. And I'm so grateful to the wisdom that you shared.
Thank you for having me.
See you next week, everybody, on MYYT. Thanks for listening. If this is your first time, peruse our feed to see if there's something else that will serve you. We're so grateful that you're here and invite you to join our inner circle by subscribing to our newsletter. If this episode resonated with you, help us spread the word by sending it to a friend who needs to hear this message. Likes, follows, sends, shares, and reviews help us to continue delivering high-quality content to you for free each and every week. Don't forget to tag @MasterYourYogaTeaching so we can reshare. I am a certified yogi. However, this podcast is intended for information and entertainment only. If you are interested in mentorship or coaching with me, check out the website linked in the show notes to get more information. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on the podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of Mackenzie or CLW Studios. Learn more about Mackenzie, her guests, and CLW Studios by following the links in the show notes. Keep shining, and we will see you next Wednesday for another dose of Master Your Yoga Teaching. Namaste blessed.